LeBron James says he is PO'd about not being chosen and voted for by more people for NBA MVP. Is this great because we're finally seeing some athletes being honest, or is this sour grapes and kind of poor sportsmanship? Let's dive down that rabbit hole. Bubba O'Neill, you can see from the guys on the other side of the board here, they are clearly trying to look more and more like us now. Rick now almost down to the nub. It's good. This means more intelligent conversation. The shorter the hair, the brighter the people. Right, Bubba? That's what we always say, right?
Yeah, we've been trying to tell these guys that for about a decade now, and they just finally
working. It's finally working.
Who goes into winter with short hair? That's what I don't know.
We're almost there. We'll catch up soon.
LeBron James does. He usually keeps it pretty short. And LeBron James is in the news this week because at the end of last week when the NBA MVP voting came out and Giannis Antetokounmpo won for the second straight year, LeBron was asked about it. And he was pretty blunt. He said, I'm PO'd. I should have. Well, he didn't really say he should have won, but he said he should have won if you read between the lines. Rick, we always complain about athletes giving cliches and pat answers and not saying anything. Are we applauding LeBron James for his blunt honesty? Or are we looking at this guy like a colossal jerk who should have simply said, I congratulate Giannis, and he was the better man this year, and on we go?
I think it's a bit of both. I think I'll lean, it sounds a little bit like sour grapes, but I'll lean a little more to, this is refreshing. This is a guy who is, just being honest, thought he had a great year, thought he should have got more than 16 votes because he mentioned that, a couple of times. But listen, Giannis had an amazing season again, top 5 in scoring. I think he was second in rebounds. His team was number 1 in the NBA. So how can you not vote for a guy like that? LeBron had a really good campaign too, but let's face it, he's not the same LeBron. He's still, one of the top 5 players in the league. But at the end of the day, I found it refreshing that he was honest and thought he should have got at least a few more votes than the 16 he did.
Steve, what do you think?
I don't have a problem with it. I love the NBA for the fact that the players speak up, and if we want them to speak up on some issues, you speak up on others. I'll maybe throw a different light on this, and that is when it comes to voting, and we've all voted for these things. Whether it's for the Bulldogs or Tiger Cats or for CFL or the whole league. Every once in a while, I think voters need to be reminded of things. It doesn't mean that should change their mind, but it should make you think, how and why do I vote for these types of things? Now, most people will do the subtraction theory. And I think if you subtracted either one from their team, you don't have a whole bunch. You might have a little more left in LA, but not as a team because that team hasn't been together as much. It's kind of a put together quickly team. So in either case, when you subtract the player from the team, which is what a lot of MVPs does, because most valuable player, what's that team like without him? Well, we see they're negative in the number of points they score in LA, but take him away from Milwaukee, take Antetokounmpo away from Milwaukee, and what have you got? You don't have much there either, so I don't think it's a real problem him speaking up. It's real hard. I think NBA might be harder than any place because it's based on stardom. And every team has 2, so there's at least 60 stars. So to be the MVP of a star-driven league, that's really tough to come down to a single vote.
Bubs?
The world's not made up of Sidney Crosbys, all right? They say nothing kind of guys. And I find it extremely refreshing when any athlete speaks outside of the general box. As we've all known, we've all been in press rooms in all kinds of leagues and heard the same things over and over again. Mind you, I seem to find that it happens a lot in the National Hockey League. So I'm going to applaud LeBron James for saying what he said. And I think you got to kind of listen to what he said. That's my true answer when he was asked about it. That's my true answer. So again, he's being extremely honest to all of us in the press. And he said, I'm not saying the winner was not deserving of the MVP, but that pissed me off. 101 voters around the world, and he had 16 votes. A guy that has been to the playoffs every year but one, and that was because he was injured last year. I think about it. Since he entered the league in 2003, who's been better than LeBron James? Who? I mean, I feel like sometimes these MVP awards, we get fed up of the best players in the world. How on earth was Charles Barkley better than Michael Jordan in an MVP race one year? So I feel like, yeah, if I'm that actual individual and I speak out, so be it.
I think it makes him look like a jerk, to be honest. But that's not the question, especially when, Bubba, your quote, which I'm glad you raised that quote because I was going to, if you hadn't, where LeBron wouldn't even say Giannis's name. He just said the winner. I mean, it sounded really petulant and petty. And for that reason, he comes across in my mind sounding like, as I say, like a bit of a jerk. That said, that wasn't what we asked. And what we asked was, is this refreshing? And I would say, absolutely. I join the rest of you. I think we would prefer to have honesty from these guys as opposed to the pat answers that we always get. And the other thing you said, Bubba, that I agree wholeheartedly with is if this was a bulk of work, if this was a body of work award that was a cumulative thing based on your career building up to that point, LeBron would probably win it every year because he is unquestionably, it's not even a competition right now, among active players. If you look at the body of their career work, he is by far the leader of the pack in the active player group. I mean, I think you can argue LeBron maybe in the top 3 all time right now, which, but he doesn't win the MVP every year. And so your point is, I think LeBron looks at this, and I'm putting myself in his head for a second. You guys can tell me if I'm misreading this. I think he looks at this like exactly what I said. I've been the best player for a long time, and I've won, I think, 4 MVPs, and I keep getting overlooked. But I don't know how you argue against Giannis this year.
I don't think you can either. I mean, Giannis just had, a phenomenal season, and, we all watched The Last Dance, and one of the marquee moments in that was Michael Jordan saying he was PO'd when Hakeem Olajuwon was that he should have won, and that motivated him to win another championship as he did 6 times in his NBA career. There can only be one MVP, and if there was a 5-member MVP squad, LeBron would be in there each and every year. I mean, you could not deny that. I think he was more PO'd that he only got 16 votes as opposed to losing the award. I think that if he got 50 or 60 or 70, I think he could stomach that a little easier. But only getting 16, I think that really rubbed him the wrong way.
Yeah, I think that's where he starts questioning, going back to my original point, how do people vote this way? He said he was a little bit stunned by that. And that should make all voters. And when you get criticized for something like that, I think it probably, if you're a voter, you should probably take a look. And if you can stand your own scrutiny as to why you voted that way, then fine. That's fine. It shouldn't come from other people, but you should question yourself. And I think these kinds of things do it. And it's funny you mentioned Jordan, Rick, because there's another number here, and that's 4 and 5. 5 MVPs for Jordan and 4 for LeBron. And, it'd be nice for him because he's not going to catch probably. He might. I don't think so. He's not going to catch the 6 NBA titles, is he?
I can't see that happening. And yeah, that's his contemporary. That's who he compares himself to, and that's who we're going to compare. We do that already. The LeBron and MJ comparison that goes on right now. I think there's been a voting procedure change in the MVP award. I think about 2005, 2006, it changed in terms of its format. I think it might have been a smaller panel that did it. So maybe this is something else that needs to be examined. Hey, Steve, you were long a member of the Hall of Fame, I believe, for Major League Baseball. I think you would be honest in saying that there are some people that watch 150 games all year, and some people that watch 5.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
So perhaps there's a flaw in the system and the way these, worldwide votes are going on.
And worldwide, that's a really good thing when we talk about worldwide, because you're right, there sometimes doesn't have the intensity. And when you're talking MVP, you sort of have to have the feel of the culture, don't you? The culture of the NBA and I mean everything around that culture and what's important and all those kinds of things. I'm not disagreeing with this vote. I mean, if I had a vote, I probably would have gone Giannis here. There's an interesting thing that that evolution in baseball, where the MVP, which is chosen by the writers and by a lot and by a huge committee, as many as, I don't know, sometimes 400 or 500 might vote in a year, or 300 or 400. You have to have had 10 years in the league in a row to be able to vote is the rule. But the players have come to take the players vote on that, where it comes to most outstanding player versus most MVP. There's always an issue about what MVP actually means. I know I've struggled with it over the years, where MOP is a whole different ballgame. And there's a kind of a players vote that comes up with an MOP, and a lot of the players have put a lot more stock in that. Of course, that becomes a popularity contest too. It can get skewed.
You know what's funny about that though is we just heard, how long ago was it now? When was the players' protest? 3 weeks ago now in the bubble, and we heard those stories that LeBron spoke up, and a lot of players were PO'd at LeBron. Speaking of PO'd, I'm not sure if you took the players' poll, if LeBron doesn't get even fewer first place votes than Giannis.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It can become a popularity contest. That's the bad side of the players voting on it, right? It can become a bit of a popularity contest, and I think that's why evolution of these things tends to start to move towards committees. And I don't like hockeys either, because I think there should be more kind of more recently current players on it, that kind of thing, if you're going to go player wise as well, just at least for a voice.
And back to the refreshing thing, I mean, we're talking about it because this is unique. There aren't a lot of athletes nowadays who do this sort of thing because they've been huddled in almost like cattle to respond a certain way. The social media teams for franchises, media managers, communications people, presidents, CEOs want their athletes to represent the brand and not say anything outlandish. Not to say that LeBron was really outlandish in this, but it was certainly, different than what we've heard from other, candidates from MVP awards who didn't win. They're told to speak a certain way and answer questions a certain way. We see this in hockey. Bubba, you mentioned Sidney Crosby, the cliche kind of answers. They don't want to ruffle any feathers. They don't want to cause any waves. This, is in the refreshing category because it was so different.
And guys, I'm going to have to, in some ways, a little bit disagree with you guys. I think LeBron James is the better player. There are different types of games, obviously, in the NBA, and there are certain things that Giannis has improved upon, that being a jump shot, three-point shooting, that LeBron has excelled at for many, many years. Since he's been around in 2003, I've always thought LeBron has been one of the most complete players, whether it be offense, defense. You can actually point. There are many examples in time in various sports where particular statistical numbers are greater, but the actual player, to me, in comparison, can sometimes be better.
Well, Giannis
based on stats.
He was the top defensive player of the year a couple of years in a row now, right? So don't be knocking that. But LeBron has also finished second a number of years.
I'm talking about what did the Raptors do? And again, what did the Miami Heat 1 year later do? They took the page right out of the Raptors' defensive, make Giannis a jump shooter, and he's just not very good at it. Right? He can run down from one side of the court and throw the ball down. He's exciting as ever. He can come up with blocks, but is his complete game there? You can't stop LeBron James from the elbow because
it also shows something that was pointed out by some other people way smarter than me, which was it also speaks to who Giannis has playing with him versus who LeBron has playing with him. If you take LeBron out of the game, he has got Anthony Davis, who was one of the best players in the league and can dominate. Who's Giannis's Scottie Pippen?
Well, then you're getting into Steve's argument about the actual definition of
exactly.
most outstanding player to his team. And that's why I think the CFL has got it bang on in
just best player.
Most outstanding player. And in this way, there's no argument, right? So most valuable player to the league or most valuable player to his team.
Well, and one other thing that you pointed out is that we get tired, right? We've seen LeBron or any other, like when it was Gretzky or Sidney Crosby or whomever else.
Jordan.
How many times should Sidney Crosby have won the the Hart Trophy? But we see them and they end up competing against themselves. Their best years become the barometer for them. And if they have the best year in the league, but it's not as good a year as they've had before, we say, well, he wasn't really that good this year. Some of these guys have set such an incredibly high bar for themselves that they make it almost impossible for voters to look at them and say, yeah, they were as good as they have been, and that guy wasn't as good. It's a psychological game they almost play inadvertently by being so good that it's hard to be that good all the time.
These are exactly the kinds of questions that LeBron making a statement like this should bring up in the minds of every voter. Again, they may not change their vote, but they should be saying, did I ask myself all of the questions like the one that you just put forward, Scott?
Yeah, those questions should be. Those questions should be, in hockey, did he score 50 goals again? Did he get 100 points again? Did his team do better? Was his plus minus better? In the NBA, did they score more points? Did he get more rebounds? You look at the statistical categories, and then you also got to look at, well, who else was on the team? Did they lose players? Did they add players? Was their power play better? Was their, 3-point shooting better? Whatever the case is. And I think you kind of do those plus and minuses at the end of the day, and, you pick what you think is the best winner out of all of that. And it's not easy. Sometimes, you look at a few different players and they have, greater stats compared to, some other guys and worse stats. You can't fault the voters for going with their gut sometimes and just saying, listen, these are the standards that I've set, and this is the guy that I'm going with.
Do you think this is going to change it all? Do you think this is going to change it all if we can't go to the games?
Well, I'm just saying that the stats shouldn't always be everything, guys. There's an eye test to me that sometimes you can certainly see who's the best player out there without it being a statistical sort of story every single night.
Well, that was my question, Bob. Now that we're like, a lot of things come not even from just watching on television, because you see what the television chooses you to see. It's a little better in basketball because you can see the whole court most of the time. But in most sports, there is a sense about being at the game and there being there afterwards or beforehand. I'm just wondering if that changes a lot if we're going to continue to be distant, especially the people that have to vote. They're not actually ever going to be in the arena much anymore, I wonder, or for the next little while. I wonder, do you think that changes that? Do you think it makes it even more statistically based?
Steve, again, it goes to, the idea of numbers. Show me the last, let's use hockey for an example. Show me the last Conn Smythe Trophy winner that wasn't either the leading scorer on the team in the playoffs or a goalie who just lost his mind and was unbelievable. When was the last time you had a Conn Smythe Trophy winner who was just a great shutdown defenseman who negated the other team's offense? It never happened. We've always been awarding awards, awarding trophies.
I don't know, Scott, sorry, I don't interrupt, but we just got a guy, I think Jacob deGrom won the National League Cy Young Award, and I think his record was 12-11.
Yeah, but look at the other numbers. But look at the other numbers he had. They were insane. So
we've always used wins and losses as the main criteria. As a guy, if a guy wins 20 games, well, he's going to get that
Cy Young. Great year. Yeah, no, and that's changing a bit for sure. That is definitely changing. But when was the last NFL MVP on the defensive side of the ball? I'll tell you what it was. It was Lawrence Taylor, and we know how long ago Lawrence Taylor played. So we love statistics. We love big numbers. And Giannis put up big numbers. LeBron put up big numbers. You've got a choice, but we got to go. But I'll tell you what I'm hoping from this more than anything is that other people in other lines of work, especially in the entertainment world, see this. And next time we have the Academy Awards and they do the 5-shot or a 4-shot like we have right now of the nominees and someone wins, the rest of them go, crap, he sucks. An honest blurt out reaction of, oh, no way, that movie was horrible.
The Emmys looked like everybody was everybody's best friend when they did that, didn't they?
Yeah, no, I'd like to see some honest reaction. Meryl Streep, overrated. This from the crowd. I don't think
again.
Anyway. Again, yeah, exactly. What do you think? Was LeBron bang on with a jolt of honesty that we have not seen till this point with his comments, or was LeBron a little petulant and maybe should have said, congratulations, Giannis, and kept his mouth shut and done what seems a little more gracious and a little more traditional? We'd love to hear. Our Twitter handles are on the screen. You can comment. We'd love to hear from you. Tell your friends about this. Get a conversation going with them as well. See what they have to say. Get them to have the discussion over Diet Coke or whatever you have when you watch this. Also, subscribe down below. We'd love to have you follow along all the time. Thank you for watching. We will talk to you again soon.